Hello everyone, welcome to the Valores Training Center YouTube channel. I'm Mark Entrata, first degree black belt under the legendary Professor Cobrinha Charles. And with me is a very special guest and soon to be not guest anymore, uh, Professor Andrew Laxa. Professor Andrew, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Of course.
So, Professor, uh, actually, I'll just call him Andrew because we're more friends than,
Yeah.
so we've
It's
known,
so weird that you.
yeah.
It feels weird for you to call me professor, but yeah, yeah,
So, si Andrew, so a lot of people don't know this, but I've been training with Andrew for more than 10 years. Am I
yeah,
correct?
yeah. Basically, since I
You're
made
purple
the
belt.
move,
Yeah.
yeah, from when I made the move, I left the Philippines, tried to move to the U.S. and did my thing there. I ended up leaving my team here, who I stayed with until around up to purple belt. And then whenever I'd come back from living overseas, whether it was living in the U.S. or Singapore or Oman, every time I would come back, it would be you guys that I would train with, and I remember still training with you back when you guys were in Tech Tight. You were not, I remember training with you as you kind of went through all the different
Yeah.
phases of Valores and like the different teams. I think at one point you were 98, and
Yeah.
I was there for all of that. Kind of in the background a little bit because back then I was trying to like kind of keep things low key and
Yeah.
like. But yeah, man, regularly with the exception of the whole COVID thing, basically train with you like every year. Every
Yeah.
time I come home for at least a few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I remember, but before training with him, I've been a fan already. Even at the white belt, when he was still a white belt. So I would always watch him. And then, coincidentally, he's one of the good friends of my nephew-in-law,
Yeah.
si Jago. Diba? Like,
Yeah.
Jago was your teammate in judo.
Really, one of my best friends in college. We were teammates in DLSU for the
For
judo
judo.
varsity team. Yeah. Yeah.
So I remember si Jago would always, like make bida Andrew. Oh, Andrew's this, Andrew's that. And I'm like, hey, I like Andrew, but I'm like, okay, well, who knows? Maybe
Yeah.
he's really that good.
Yeah.
Maybe because I haven't trained with you at that point,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because you were with a different team.
Yeah.
But I remember talking to you also, and even
We would
on
bump into each other at tournaments, and we'd always talk. And I mean, you had a few guys competing
yeah,
there as well. And I think at one point I've competed against some people who at some point you were
work
always
teammates.
teammates
Yeah,
with.
yeah,
So
yeah,
the jiu-jitsu scene, especially in that time when we're talking about 2009, 10, 11, 12, was so small.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So you went to the U.S. Then when you went back for the first time, we trained together. That was the first time we trained together. He was a purple belt.
Yeah.
Let's just say it was more of like a traumatizing experience for me because I wouldn't say I'm like the best, but I wouldn't say that I suck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really felt good as a purple belt. So I
Yeah.
thought,
Yeah.
I knew you were gonna catch me because I was a fan of yours when when you were competing here. So I know your level. But then I just didn't expect the like the beat down I got like First 5 minutes, he caught me like 3 times off his back. And that's the thing, man. Even up to now, not a lot of people attack from the guard. Like
Yeah.
for submissions.
Yeah. I think what tends to happen nowadays is people, the one thing that I do like really appreciate from my time training with my first team here, the DefTac
Yeah.
guys, they always had like a really aggressive style. And Alvin was always the kind of guy that'd be like, let's finish. Let's try and finish the fight. And, I started jiu-jitsu, I was really small, so I found it really difficult to maintain top position. And even if I managed to sweep somebody, it would always, the guy would like explode, bump me off, and I'd end up on bottom. And so I figured, man, if I want to finish fights, I need to be able to do it off of my back, off of guard. And that was like one of the first things that kind of really intentionally put a lot of deep focus on was being able to submit off my back. For a long time, that was kind of like the gist of my game as
Uh,
well. I felt like guard passing is probably what I'm most I would say I'm best at right now, but man, up until purple belt, I think I was a pretty crap guard passer, to be honest. And it was mostly guard. I was mostly best.
Well, just so everyone knows, when he was a purple belt, he also did pass my guard so many times. And I also kind of prided myself as someone who has a good guard. I mean, I've also trained with other people
Yeah.
from other teams, of course. You know, mostly in secret. But it's like I would do very well. Like not a lot of people were able to pass. So I really thought, I would kind of hold my own. But man, but it was that training experience from there, and like moving forward, as you really affected the way I looked at jiu-jitsu, like the level and where I really stand.
Yeah.
You gave me a lot of, because that time now we trained for the first time. I was just forming my team then, diba? Parang we were so
Yeah,
small.
I think maybe I don't know what the timeline is before that for you, like when you like kind of split off from other teams. But you were in the process of like I remember Ram was maybe a blue
No,
belt, maybe even a
probably a
white
white.
belt. You know,
Probably a white.
I think James was maybe white or blue belt as well. You know, like yeah, the team. It was basically the team now, but in its like super infancy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Uh, um, but yeah, that was super cool. I could tell that you were kind of still in that early stages of finding yourself as a leader and as an
Yeah.
instructor and everything. Yeah.
So from there, every time see Professor Andrew would be in Manila, we would get to train together. And we did train a lot in private also in Dino's house.
Yeah, yeah.
Diba?
Actually, I think like a lot of the early sessions first
We're at
were
Dino's
at
place.
Dino's place,
Yeah.
and was mostly like the three of us.
Yeah.
And so I got a lot of one-on-one time training with you and with Dino. And then I think the bulk of when I started really training with the team was when you guys were at UANP already.
Yeah.
Then I started to really like, you would ask me like, oh dude, could you like teach some classes? I started to teach some classes for you guys whenever I was home, and that sort of just became like a regular thing, you know? Yeah.
And so later on, see Andrew, of course, and Andrew is also one of the reasons why I didn't want to get my black belt. Okay, because I actually got my black belt a few months ahead of you.
Yeah.
So when Professor Cobrinha was here, that was November 2019. I was like, at that time, you weren't a black belt yet. So I was like,
No, I got it almost a year after actually.
diba?
September, I got mine September
2020. So it's really knowing someone like Andrew's out there who's a brown belt that made me not want to get my black belt. So I was like,
And I think there's always been like healthy, like with you and me, when we train hard. We go hard with each other. So there's always this like sort of brotherly, healthy competitiveness between you and me. You know what I mean? And like we've always had that approach to our personal training. We try to really push each other. And I guess that's a part of it. That manifested itself in that a little bit as well, maybe, you know?
and that's really the reason why, surprise, surprise. I think you guys know this by now, and this is also the reason why we're making this video. That's why I've always, well, first dreamed of really just training with you, like to officially learn from you. Because Andrew's been helping me remotely. Of course, he would help me when he's here, but then remotely, he would also tell me this. And even our students, Alex Alaram, he would watch videos ng Alaram and stuff, and he would go, hey, tell Ram to do this. Hey, tell James to do this. Blah. And I've always appreciated that. And I've always felt that, man, if I could, because I know my limitations also as a coach, because I'm really mostly a manager, coach type of guy. It's like I'm here to my job really is to focus on the culture, to make sure that it's a culture of learning, of improvement, culture of safety and stuff like that. But on the technical side, of course, I'm not like especially with your experiences, and even some of our black belts like James, they have way more experience than me when it comes to competing. So having someone like you was always something I've always wanted, and because of those training sessions we've had, and I always thought, man, if you could officially, really not officially, but regularly bring that to our training here, then it's really gonna take our jiu-jitsu to the next level. My jiu-jitsu to the next, because as technical and as fun as someone like James is, Ram, Chris, but they're much smaller than me. So the
Also,
trains.
you've been training with them for so long,
So we kind of know
kind of
that,
like since they were lower belts, you've been training with them for so long.
and,
So
I think there's also still that kind of fatherly respect that they give me when we roll.
yeah,
So you could kind of feel that they still hold back. And
that's nice. I don't get that in Sweden. My boys try to murder me.
so I like with Andrew, it's like see Andrew really pushes me to really not be lazy. That's it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
really, you expose my game, everything I need to work on, and that's why it's man. I've been the idea of him really having his own academy, his own branch here has been around for like over 5 years. That idea, right?
Yeah. We've been discussing it even before COVID happened.
Before COVID.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, everything works the way it should. I'm a firm believer of that. I remember we really wanted me to come out here like before COVID. I was still a brown belt at that time, and thank God I didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
Knowing after knowing what had happened with the
Yeah.
world and all those years that were lost. I mean, in Sweden, we were able to continue training, but here it was really tough. A
Yeah.
lot of people really had to stop, quit jiu-jitsu. And if I had to make that decision to try and make it work here, that probably would have been the first and last try to make it
And
work.
we probably wouldn't be friends anymore.
No, of
Like
course.
that. No.
But yeah, no, all the timing was perfect. And yeah, I had a lot of personal growing up to do. I think there were a lot of things that I experienced living in Sweden and running a team in Sweden and training with my master back in Sweden. That I learned a lot, and now I can take all those things I learned and apply it to this new adventure we
So
got
speaking
going.
of Sweden, you got your black belt from
Alan Finfu. So
Finfu.
I am a black belt under Alan Finfu, who is honestly one of the sort of the pioneers of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Scandinavia. He's one of the first guys to really you know try and move out there and make a living off of Jiu-Jitsu and spread Jiu-Jitsu out there. I started training with Alan as quite late, as a brown belt, um, and yeah, I would travel to Stockholm and train with him. And eventually I started competing under him, and we would eventually go on to start a team together as well called Encourage Jiu-Jitsu, which my club, my guys back in Uppsala are under Encourage Jiu-Jitsu. Um, but yeah, he's had like a massive contribution to my game, especially in the latter part, because I never really had a coach after I left the Philippines. So from purple belt onwards, it was like a lot of just teaching myself and taking ownership of my own learning. And I had times where there was a short stint where I was training at AOJ and I learned a lot there. And then also, I did have the opportunity to train a lot with Cobrinha. During the early stages of me moving to Sweden, I would go back to LA because I had some friends who were living there. I'd spend like a month or two out there training with Cobra as well. And, all of these things obviously had a effect on my learning, but ultimately I had to take ownership of my own journey as a coach and as a competitor. But the moment I started to train with Finfu, I kind of had it was the first time in a long time that I had sort of this coach figure that I could go to and talk to. Because, when you get to that level, or I was at, it wasn't necessarily so much that Finfu was teaching me specific techniques anymore.
Yeah.
Although I gotta say, like, I didn't play that much spider guard, but then I started training with Finfu, and that really like blew up my spider guard game. I started playing a lot of spider guard. I was mostly like a half guard reverse De La Hiva guy. But a lot of what I learned from Finfu was mostly like a competitive mindset. And also we come from sort of similar situations. Finfu moved to Sweden as a brown belt. He won his world championships, purple and brown. Actually, as a purple belt, he had already been trying to move to Sweden as a purple belt, and he would go back to Rio to do his camps
Mm.
whenever he would try and compete at the
The word.
Worlds and those bigger tournaments. So the mindset mostly of like, how do I achieve that, get to that level without training with black
Yeah.
belts? You know, Finfu, when he won his like brown belt world title and like, you know, when all the stuff that he accomplished as a black belt, he was doing that out of Sweden, training with guys he built from white belt, you know. Um, uh, so that is super inspiring, and that was something I tried to really like tap into. You know, how am I gonna get the most out of my jujitsu without having, you know, to be able to train with black belts on a daily basis or like other super high level competitors on a daily basis. You know, because in Sweden, in Uppsala, I didn't have a lot of guys that were at my level that were trying to. I had good training partners.
Mm.
There are a lot of good guys in Uppsala who are good at jiu-jitsu, but no one was taking it serious. No one was like trying to be competitive. Most of my training, especially in the last couple of years, I mostly trained with my students.
Which is quite interesting that
Yeah,
you bring that up, because even then you won a lot of tournaments as a black belt,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you even, so just so everyone knows, Andrew is actually Masters 1. Okay,
yeah.
but even up to last year, you were competing against adults.
Yeah, the last tournament I did was at the adult division in the Nordic Open. And the last time I competed in the Nordic Open before that, I also did adult division. The only thing that kind of stops me from doing adult is the fact that, especially at BJJF, if you're going to compete in Europeans, you need to qualify
Points. You
with
need
the
the points.
points.
Yeah.
And it's so expensive. It's very hard to justify to my wife, you know,
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Lisbon to do the Lisbon Open so I can qualify.
For the
I gotta buy the
European.
flight. I gotta buy a hotel stay. I gotta pay IBJJF $100 just for registration, and then I have to do that maybe 2 more times. I gotta
To
go to
get the points,
London or I
yeah.
gotta go to Dublin to get the points. And, you know, I'm a father. I've got two kids, a 7-year old and a 5-year old back home in Sweden, and you know, to be able to take that much money just was really hard for me. You know. Uh, but so I would do the Europeans at Master One, and I fought some really good guys. You know,
So in the last Masters Europeans, you won 3 matches, right?
yeah, I won 3 matches, and then I lost the fourth by a ref's
Ref
decision.
decision, right?
Yeah, so I ended up getting bronze. It was a really pretty. I mean, Master One, it's still pretty stacked, man.
Yeah.
It's a high level, bro. Like,
And bro, we're really just talking about 30 to 34-year-old guys. So
yeah,
those aren't old people.
no, and there's a lot of guys that could still do adult or still do
Yeah,
adult, but
yeah,
they
yeah.
just, it's the same reason for me that they don't do it because of the qualifying points, you know, for whatever reason. But yeah, and like, you know, I did the English Open, the British Open at adults. So anytime I get a chance to kind of push myself, I have the way I see it is I don't have an unlimited time to be able to compete at the highest level. So why not make the
Yeah.
most of it while I can? Uh, but yeah, I'm just trying to, and again, that's the example that I'm just following. That, you know,
Yeah.
Finfu, man, was competing into adult in the adult division way into, he was already Master One
Yeah.
by then. Master Two still doing adult division sometimes, you know. So yeah, yeah,
No, but you know what? Watching his videos, his matches, and the black belt division, especially in the adult division, actually makes me feel good. Because the way you were also like submitting those people, sweeping them, passing you, so I'm like, ah, okay, so it's not just me. Okay, so you know, watching those, I enjoy it. A little bit of PTSD, but then, but then at the same like, oh, okay, it's like it's normal. It's
yeah.
normal for me. What you do to me, so yeah,
But I mean, you know, jujitsu, there are like levels to this game, right? Like, there are still, I roll with Finfu, and there are days where I can have a pretty okay roll and not get absolutely mauled. And then there are days when it would just feel like, you know, when orcas chuck like seals in the air before they eat them. That's kind of what it
yeah.
felt like rolling with Finfu
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, and even the similar experiences, you know, like training with guys like Tommy Langecker
Oh yes, that one
and
also. You learn you trained a lot with Tommy and
Espen
Espen.
and Todek. Like when I only had one kid, I would try and make an effort to go up to Norway and train with them, and yeah, just because I wanted to really push myself and like kind of expose myself to really high level jiu-jitsu, and they were so welcoming and kind and really accommodating. They always had this sort of like, yeah man, come over and train kind of attitude. So I got to train with them, and again, there are levels to it, man. When you roll with, you know, guys like that, Tommy, who, you know, at his peak really only couldn't get through Tynan,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
but even had his moments against
yeah.
Tynan, and even Espen, I think at one point made it to the final
Yeah, I
against
remember Lucas.
Lucas
Yeah.
Lepre, right? And you know,
Oh, did he
Lepre.
beat Lepre in like the Europeans or something?
No, I think
Was
no.
there?
That's a what's his name?
Was
That's
he-
another guy.
Oh, okay.
But he beat Najmi.
Yeah.
So he, I mean, like a really good experience, really good. Like being able to, I mean, Lucas Lepre is probably like, in my opinion, one of the
Oh, like
greatest
great.
of all
Yeah,
time
in the gi.
in the gi. Even
That-
no-gi lightweight, you know, that 76 under
It's
77
just that
division.
unfortunately he's never won the ADCC. He came close twice.
Yeah, but again,
But yeah, you know,
losing
things
to
happen.
amazing. That
JD
again,
Torres,
JD Torres,
and
Khan is
then
in there. So many good guys, man.
who's this guy? That, but
Um,
yeah, that guy.
And I mean, also Leandro Lowe, probably the
Yeah,
only really guy to really like kind of
yeah,
give Lucas Lepre in the gi a hard time.
Yeah.
Like really, kind of was a puzzle for Lucas was Leandro Lowe. Um, again, who could also be considered one of the greatest of all times, you know. So, I mean, yeah, just any way that I could. My sort of philosophy was always like try to put myself in rooms where I wasn't the best guy.
So, but speaking of it, something interesting also, when Andrew was training at Cobrina's, at least in one of the times, or one of the few times, or one of the times that you were there, he was able to train, but they were still kids then.
Ah, yeah, with like Mika Galbao and Baby Shark.
Baby Shark.
But that makes me kind of sad because that just goes to show how much older I'm getting. Because Mika at the time was
Is he a
green belt,
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
and Baby Shark at the time was a blue belt. So it was pretty. Yeah, I had some amazing, but this was what I've always kind of dreamed of. Like when I left the Philippines initially, I just wanted to expose myself to the world of jiu-jitsu because I knew how big it was.
Yeah.
And I knew that, like, you know, the Philippines was just like a small speck in the sort
Jiu-jitsu
of
sphere.
jiu-jitsu
Yeah.
sphere, right? And I just wanted to expose myself as much as I could to the best guys and be able to share the mats with some other people that I really looked up to. And, you know, now there's a lot of things that I was able to achieve because of that. You know, being able to spend the time to train with, you know, during my time training with Cobrinha, I spent a lot of time rolling with Kennedy. I spent a lot of time training with Isaac.
When you trained with Kennedy, I think Kennedy was still a brown belt.
Yeah, still a brown belt. We were both brown
Yeah,
belts.
they were
So, yeah, man, it was, and you know, I think I was, I'm a lightweight, so
Yeah.
I'm the perfect training partner for them because it's like
They're like featherweight. Right?
I'm not too big,
Yeah.
you know, so it's still good training for them. Yeah, man, being able to train with like Gabriel Goulart, also really good and nice guy who was there a lot. No, but it's just being exposed. That was always my goal, and
But speaking of being exposed, you also fought at the brown belt some of the top guys in the world.
yeah,
And
I had the pleasure of like being able to fight like Pato when we were brown belts.
Diego Pato is now what, a three-time world champion?
Yeah, just won his last one recently against Baby Shark. So I mean, yeah, man, just to be able to stand on a podium with like Pato and Sam McNeely is like, you know, makes me feel good. My first Europeans, I lost to, as a black belt, I lost to Darrow O'Connell
The
2-0.
Yeah.
It was a very good match.
It was a very good match.
Very
He
good
was
match.
super. Well, yeah.
Dara did really a good job of scoring early and then just shutting my game down, basically. and that was also like a learning experience for me. You know, like showing the kind of experience that Dara has, because Dara has also fought the best of the best in Europe.
Hmm.
He's fought Teta Eduardo Teta Rios multiple
Yeah.
times. Gi no Gi. You know, he's was a part of the Kumite when Lloyd Irving had that thing with
Yeah,
Keenan
yeah, 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 yeah. I did.
Cornelius.
Oh.
You know, um, so it was really, man, that's always what I wanted out of jiu-jitsu, and I was able to get that. So
And see, well, another question that I want to ask you. Before you left, you were competing a lot here. You know, just a little bit of throwback for everyone. So, who were your favorite opponents back? Or you know, you fought a lot of guys, but are there certain people that stood out
uh,
during the time you were competing here?
yeah, yeah.
So, who are like some of your
Uh,
favorite guys
Adrian
to compete?
Guggenheim for sure from
Guggenheim.
Atos.
Yeah,
Adrian Guggenheim, because if I'm not mistaken, I fought him 5 times. I won three, and he beat me twice. The last one was purple belt, but it was always like back and
yeah.
forth, and it
Yeah.
was
It
always
was
a
always a good
war.
match.
It
Yeah,
was never an easy match.
yeah.
Francis Uy, because I knew that if I was gonna fight my division, and either Francis or Guggenheim were there, it would be me, most likely me, and one of them in the final.
Yeah.
On the way towards that, it would be. I mean, I fought so many guys, dude. I remember fighting Eros Baliot at open weight at one point, um, which was sick to be able to fight Eros, and then Froilan. I fought
Wow.
Froilan at open
Oh yeah,
weight.
because Brian is much bigger than you.
Altos, another really good guy from Altos. Man,
I mean, that's one of the reasons why
so many guys, bro. Honestly, it's like a lot of Neil Ferrer from
KMA is like,
KMA, Roy Hoson back then from I think he
Ray
was
was new
New
breed the
Breed.
time na yan.
Like a lot of really good guys. I mean, as soon as I started competing, even though I kind of people think that I like back then that it was like I was a natural competitor, and I always tell people, no, man. You know, up till brown belt, I was losing sleep over competing. I would compete, I'd sleep like 4 hours the night before because I'd be so nervous, and it was more of a feeling of like, man, I just want to compete and get it over with. Then I can go back to training for fun. You know, that was always my up until brown belt. I think brown belt, I really started to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm black belt now. I mostly compete only because I enjoy it. There's not as much pressure because at black belt now it feels like everyone's freaking good.
Yeah,
So it
and then
doesn't
there's no
matter.
ceiling anymore
Yeah,
at the black
everyone's
belt.
good. You
Yeah,
know.
there's no
So,
ceiling at the black belt.
but yeah, like in the beginning it was like a love hate relationship. But again, credit to my first team, DefTac. They kind of like made me they exposed me to competition so much, and kind of they found a way to help me do it, even though it wasn't something I necessarily looked forward
Yeah,
to, but I knew that it was good for me
yeah.
because I could recognize the technical growth that would happen every time I compete. There would always be
Mm.
some new learning, or it would unlock something for me. And that was mostly why I did it, because
Yeah.
I felt like, yeah, it's like a jiu-jitsu growth spurt every time you compete. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, back then, like Jairo Santos at one point as well, really old school guy. I mean, I don't know if people even,
Yeah, yeah.
so I fought a lot of really, really good guys, man.
So we talked about the past. So now, what's next for Andrew? Because now, are you
Yeah.
back in Manila? What's the plan?
I am back in Manila. So people ask me like, "Oh, where are you based now?" I am now based here. My family is still living back in Sweden because, it's such. I'm here for sort of career goals. I like to think of it. But Sweden is so good for kids and stuff, and I want to keep my family there. We'll fly them out for summers, and they're gonna be here, spend Christmas here, spend 4 weeks here in December. But I'm gonna be doing the back and forth. Uh, but I'm trying to build a new branch here for Alliance Manila, um, which it's gonna start next week. I'll be teaching out of Gold's Gym in Venice
Venice
Mall
Mall.
in McKinley Hill, we'll start off with a thrice a week schedule: Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. We'll have two classes: a novice class and an all levels class. Um, Everyone's welcome. Yeah, if you guys got questions, DM me or Mark about it. But yeah, that's sort of my new goal here, and of course to lead the competition crew here at
Which,
Valia. So
which his first competition as our coach, as a competition coach, which was last weekend. First time we went like 14 wins, 0 losses with
yeah,
Andrew coaching the team, because you led the comp training for a month.
about
And,
three. Yeah, about
yeah,
yeah, a
more
little
or
less
less,
than
eh?
4 weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did twice a week, and man, people came into the sessions very focused. Uh, uh, they came in there with a lot of a lot of excitement, a lot of good energy, very intentional with their training, and it was great results. But honestly, such an easy job for me because people showed up and people really dedicated to themselves to the training, and it was not easy training. We worked really hard.
People
Um,
got sick. I'm serious. Like first week
yeah,
you were there,
really.
people got sick. So,
Tried
but
to change the pace up a little bit, but also like make very minor technical adjustments that I think really paid off in certain instances at the tournament. And I don't know, man. I don't know if it's the time that we've spent together in the past because um, a lot of the people in the competition class already know me from my yearly trips here. Every time I'm here, at least the last 2 3 years, when I'm here, I spend 4 weeks, 3 weeks training with you guys, teaching 2 times a week.
yeah.
So there's a lot of familiarity, and you could really tell in man, it's crazy how much people were really listening when I was coaching over the weekend, and like, no, it was good. We meshed well together as I don't know. I just it feels like a really natural fit right now with the team, and so I'm excited, man. I'm excited to help contribute whatever I can contribute to making the level here better and improving in any way I can, but also building a new community for our team
Expanding.
at the McKinley Hill location. So yeah, man, this is a dream come
Yeah.
true. It's been a dream for me to have the opportunity to work with someone like Mark, someone who we've always been super aligned in the way we view jiu-jitsu as a
Jiu-jitsu.
whole, how jiu-jitsu culture should be, what people should be getting out of jiu-jitsu, the right approach to coaching as well,
Yeah.
the attitude towards training. We've always been super aligned, and I think that's why, like, even early on when we started training together, even though I mean, we come from very different backgrounds in terms of team history,
Yeah.
but it was a great fit right off the
Yeah,
bat,
for sure.
and now that is going to manifest itself in the way we run and in the way we co-run the team. And man, I'm super excited. I'm super honored, and it feels good to be home.
Yeah.
To be able to contribute to the jiu-jitsu community here in the Philippines, a community that I'm quite indebted to as well
Yeah.
because my
And you were
foundation.
a part of a few years back.
Yeah,
Diba? Na parang
yeah,
you were a big part of the competition scene. You were
yeah,
like one of
man.
those guys who
It's
leveled everyone up.
my foundation of competing. I owe a lot to the tournaments in MOA, man.
Yeah, those
Like,
were always like
yeah,
wow.
those battles in MOA,
Yeah.
five, 6 matches in one day,
Yeah.
7 matches in one day. I
Yeah.
remember one tournament I had 7 matches in one day because I did 3 in my division.
Or
No,
absolute.
4 in my division, 3 in
Yeah,
absolute.
absolute. Yeah.
In MOA, in the
Yeah.
heat.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, dude, like that really kind of that added a lot to my character as a competitor. So yeah, I'm excited to be able to be a part of the scene again here.
And again, Professor Andrew, brother, before we go, yeah, it's a dream for us too. Dream for me. I've been, like wanting this for the longest time. So also for my personal jujitsu growth, because this is gonna be the first time that I really have someone regularly to guide me, to coach me, to get my jiu-jitsu to the next level in person. So, Andrew, brother, I'm excited for what the future holds for us, for our team. So, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, bro. Come train with me, man. McKinley
McKinley Hill.
Hill, Venice
Mall,
Mall,
Gold's Gym.
at Gold's Gym. Os.
All right, bye-bye. Os.